Tonight, we're diving into the peculiar world of Victorian social etiquette. Believe me, their sense of proper behavior was so strange, it'll make your most uncomfortable modern experiences look tame. If you're enjoying these tales, feel free to like or subscribe. It really helps. Also, I'd love to know where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always amazing to hear how people across the globe are drifting off to sleep with these stories. Now let's journey back to Victorian England. It's going to be quite the adventure. Imagine this. You've just awakened in London around the year 1850. Your eyes open to the sight of a narrow iron bed, not your familiar memory foam, but something firmer, pricklier, and stuffed with horsehair. The room is cold, the fire from the night before now reduced to faintly glowing embers. The dim light casts shadows across a heavy wardrobe, a washstand with a ceramic basin, and a dressing table with a modest mirror. Outside, you can hear the clatter of iron-rimmed wheels on cobblestone streets and a dog barking in the distance. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke, always coal smoke in London, drifting through every gap and crevice. Mixed in is a trace of bergamot oil from the perfume bottle on your table, that sharp citrus scent that everyone's using these days. Your bed sheets are simple cotton, clean but far from luxurious. You're wrapped in a flannel nightgown buttoned tightly to the chin, because showing your neck or wrists while sleeping would be utterly improper. Beside you sits a small bell. You reach for it and give it a ring. Footsteps echo on the stairs almost instantly. Your maid, Mary, enters, already dressed despite the early hour. "Good morning, miss," she says with a polite curtsy. "Shall I draw the curtains?" And without waiting for an answer, she strides over and pulls back the thick velvet drapes, revealing the pale grey daylight of London. The window pane is streaked with soot from the endless smoke pouring from the city's chimneys. "What would you like to wear today, miss?" Mary asks as she opens the wardrobe, revealing a collection of dresses, each more intricate than the last. And with that, your crash course in Victorian social etiquette begins. Because from your clothing and speech to your posture, conversations, timing, and every other action today, your life is now dictated by one of the most rigid and complex social codes in history. The Victorians basically lived on expert difficulty. One misstep could lead to instant social disgrace. You have a morning call with Mrs. Hartley at 11. Mary reminds you, while selecting a deep blue day dress, and tea with your cousin Emily at 4. Here's your first lesson in Victorian customs. Despite the name, morning calls actually occur between 3 and 5 in the afternoon. Confusing? Yes, but calling them afternoon calls would earn you baffled looks. And they're strictly timed to 15 minutes, no more, no less. Linger too long and you risk being seen as rude. A pocket watch is essential to avoid social blunders. Getting dressed is an ordeal in itself. First comes the chemise, a long cotton slip. Then the corset. Oh, the corset. Mary wraps it around your torso and begins tightening the laces. "Tighter," you instruct, remembering that a proper Victorian lady's waist should be small enough to encircle with 2 hands. "Yes, miss," Mary replies, pulling harder until you can barely breathe. Your ribs shift, your lungs compress. Welcome to fashion. Next to the petticoats. One, then another, then a third, each adding volume to your silhouette. Then the crinoline, a cage of steel hoops that transforms your skirt into a vast bell-shaped dome. Finally, the dress itself, with a snug bodice and an immense skirt layered on top of it all. Altogether, you're now wearing roughly 15 pounds of fabric. Mary styles your hair, pulling it tightly back from your face and shaping it into a smooth bun at the nape of your neck. No loose strands, no chaos, everything in place, everything dignified. Hey, tonight we're diving into the world of Victorian social rules. Believe me, these people had some truly strange ideas about what was considered proper, and they'll make your most awkward modern-day moments seem totally normal. If you're enjoying these stories, I'd love it if you liked or subscribed. I'm also super curious where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment with your location and what time it is there. It always amazes me that people all over the world fall asleep to this. All right, let's head back to Victorian England. You're waking up in London around the year 1850, your eyes open in a narrow iron bed, not exactly the memory foam you're used to. This one's filled with horsehair, a bit scratchy and uneven. The room is cold, really cold, really cold. The fire that was burning earlier is now just a pile of glowing embers, casting enough light to show the outlines of the furniture. A large wardrobe, a washstand with a ceramic basin, and a dressing table with a small mirror. Outside, you can hear the clatter of iron-rimmed carriage wheels on cobblestones and a dog barking in the distance. The air smells like coal smoke. It's everywhere in London, leaking through every crack and crevice. Mixed in is the sharp, citrusy scent of bergamot oil from the perfume bottle on your dressing table, very popular at the time. The sheets are cotton, not exactly soft, but at least they're clean. You're wearing a flannel nightgown buttoned all the way up to your chin, showing your neck or wrists while sleeping. Absolutely scandalous. Next to your bed sits a small bell. You reach over and ring it. Almost instantly you hear footsteps coming up the stairs. Your maid, Mary, appears in the doorway, already dressed even though it's early. "Good morning, miss," she says with a small curtsy. "Shall I open the curtains?" Without waiting for a reply, she walks over and pulls back the heavy velvet drapes, letting in a faint grey daylight. The window glass is streaked with soot from the endless chimneys puffing smoke into the sky. "Hey there! Tonight we're diving into Victorian social rules." Honestly, these people had some pretty wild ideas about what counted as proper behaviour, and it'll make your most awkward modern moments look like nothing. If you're enjoying these stories, I'd love it if you liked or subscribed. I'm also really curious. Where are you listening from? Drop your location and the time in the comments. It always amazes me how people around the world fall asleep to this. Okay, let's head back to Victorian England. It's going to be quite the trip. Picture this. You've just woken up in London around the year 1850. You blink your eyes open in a narrow iron bed. Forget your memory foam mattress. This one's stuffed with horsehair, a bit prickly and uneven. The room is cold, really cold. The fire that was burning earlier has faded to glowing embers, casting dim light on the shadowy shapes of your furniture. A bulky wardrobe, a washstand with a ceramic basin, and a small dressing table with a mirror. Outside you hear the distant clatter of iron-rimmed carriage wheels on cobblestones. A dog barks somewhere nearby. The air is thick with the smell of coal smoke. It's everywhere in London, creeping in through every door and window crack. Mixed with that is the sharp, citrusy scent of bergamot oil from the perfume bottle on your table. It's the fashionable scent of the moment. The sheets are cotton, not exactly soft, but at least they're clean. Your nightgown is flannel, buttoned all the way up to your chin. Heaven forbid someone catch a glimpse of your neck or wrists while you sleep. That would be shocking. On the bedside table is a small bell. You reach for it and give it a ring. Almost instantly, you hear footsteps on the stairs. Your maid, Mary, appears in the doorway, already dressed despite the early hour. "Good morning, miss," she says with a small curtsy. "Shall I draw the curtains?" Without waiting for a response, she walks over to the window and pulls back the heavy velvet drapes, letting in the faint grey daylight of London. The window glass is streaked with soot from all the chimneys, constantly spewing smoke into the sky. "Will you be wearing gloves or mittens today, miss?" Mary asks, holding both out for you. "Gloves," you reply, recalling that a proper Victorian lady must never reveal her bare hands in public. Hands should always be hidden, as if modesty applied to them specifically. As Mary helps you put them on, you remember another key rule: no perfume. Queen Victoria herself has declared the strong, musky scents of the past to be distasteful. Instead, you lightly scent your handkerchief with lemon and bergamot oil, just enough to smell fresh, not enough to imply you're trying to entice anyone. Once dressed, you head downstairs for breakfast. The house is already bustling. Servants hurry about cleaning and preparing. The cook has been up since 5 preparing the meal. In the dining room, your father sits at the head of the table reading the newspaper. Your mother is at the opposite end writing letters. Both are already fully dressed. Victorians would never appear at breakfast in anything casual. "Good morning," you say as you take your seat. Your father glances over the top of his paper, nods, then returns to reading. Affectionate gestures, even among family, are not part of Victorian decorum. No hugs or kisses. Breakfast is hearty: eggs, bacon, kidneys, toast and porridge. It's the main meal of the day. You eat slowly. Your corset makes large bites impossible. "Remember, Jane," your mother says without looking up. "Mrs. Hartley's daughter is newly engaged. Be sure to congratulate her, but don't ask about the wedding. That would be inappropriate." You nod, making a mental note. This is typical of Victorian etiquette. Acknowledge major events, but don't show too much interest. Curiosity is considered rude. After breakfast, you have a few hours before your morning visit. "What would you like to wear today, miss?" Mary asks as she opens the wardrobe, revealing a collection of increasingly elaborate dresses. This is where your crash course in Victorian social etiquette begins. Everything about today, what you wear, how you speak, how you walk, who you speak to, when you speak to them, is dictated by one of the most intricate social codes ever devised. The Victorians were essentially living life on expert difficulty. One misstep, and you're socially ruined. You have a morning call with Mrs. Hartley at 11, Mary reminds you, as she picks out a day dress. You arrive at Hartley's exactly at 11 o'clock. Being on time is very important. Arriving early or late implies you don't have enough to do, which would be shameful. The butler opens the door. You give him 2 visiting cards, one for yourself and one for your mother. He places them on a small silver tray and leads you to the drawing room, where Mrs. Hartley and her daughter Charlotte are waiting. Everyone curtsies. There are no hugs or cheek kisses. Physical touch is kept to a strict minimum. "How kind of you to visit," says Mrs. Hartley, motioning for you to sit. You settle carefully on a small sofa, taking care with your large skirt. Sitting properly in a crinoline takes skill. You must sit on the edge of the seat to make space for the steel frame under your dress. "We were so happy to hear your good news," your mother says to Charlotte, who blushes modestly. "Thank you," Charlotte replies softly, looking down. "Mr. Edwards is very kind." That's all the information you'll get about her engagement. You won't hear what he's like when the wedding is, how they met, or whether she loves him. Asking would be too forward. Victorians don't pry. The conversation shifts to neutral topics: the weather, cloudy but dry, the latest church sermons, inspiring but not too lengthy, and a recent musical event, well done but not flashy. Everything is described in mild, restrained terms. Expressing strong opinions is considered improper and low class. After exactly 15 minutes, your mother gives a subtle nod. That's your signal. You both rise. It was so lovely to see you. Mrs. Hartley also rises. More curtsies are exchanged. More polite conversation follows. Then you're back outside. The morning visit is complete. That went well, your mother says as you walk home. Charlotte looked well, didn't she? Very well, you agree. In Victorian society, saying someone looks well is the highest compliment. At home, you have a light lunch and spend the afternoon reading a morally uplifting book. Nothing too thrilling or emotional, of course. Novels that stir the heart are thought to be risky for young women. At 4 o'clock, your cousin Emily comes over for tea. The visit follows a similar pattern to the morning call, though slightly more relaxed since she's family. You still sit up straight, speak calmly on proper topics, and steer clear of gossip. After Emily leaves, you have a few hours before dinner. You practice the piano for exactly 1 hour, enough to stay proficient without implying any unseemly ambition to perform professionally. Dinner is at 7, a casual family affair since there are no guests. Still, you change into a slightly fancier dress, not quite as formal as an evening gown. Victorians often change outfits throughout the day, each chosen carefully to match the occasion. At dinner, the talk is polite, but not intimate. Your father and brother discuss business, while your mother talks about her charity work. You listen carefully, only speaking when spoken to. After dinner, everyone gathers in the drawing room. Your father and brother may enjoy brandy and cigars in the study, but ladies drink only sherry and never smoke. Instead, you play piano or continue with your needlework. By 10 o'clock, it's time for bed. Another day of strict Victorian manners is over. Mary helps you undress, removing your many layers. You finally feel you can breathe again when the corset comes off. Will you need anything else, miss? Mary asks as she helps you into your nightgown. No, thank you, Mary, you reply, settling into bed with a soft sigh of relief. Will you be wearing gloves or mittens today, miss? Mary asks, holding both up. Gloves, you reply, recalling that a proper Victorian lady must never show bare hands in public. Ever. Your hands must remain hidden at all times as part of a peculiar modesty rule focused solely on hands. As Mary helps you put them on, you remember another strict rule: no perfume. Queen Victoria herself declared that the heavy, musky scents of the past are inappropriate. Instead, you lightly dab lemon and bergamot oil on your handkerchief, just enough to smell fresh, not enough to imply you're trying to attract anyone with an enticing fragrance. Fully dressed, you head downstairs for breakfast. The house is bustling with activity. Servants hurry about cleaning and polishing. The cook has been working since 5 in the morning. In the dining room, your father is seated at the head of the table reading the newspaper. Your mother is already writing letters at the other end. Both are dressed formally. No Victorian would appear at breakfast in anything casual. Good morning, you say as you sit. Your father briefly lowers his paper to nod at you, then continues reading. Public affection, even within families, is discouraged. No hugs, no kisses. Breakfast is hearty: eggs, bacon, kidneys, toast, porridge. Victorians eat their largest meal in the morning. You nibble at yours, Your corset makes eating more than a few bites difficult. Remember, Jane, your mother says without looking up, Mrs. Hartley's daughter is newly engaged. Be sure to offer congratulations, but don't ask about the wedding. That would be inappropriate. You nod, noting the reminder. This is just one rule from the endless list that shapes Victorian society. You must recognize significant events, but never show too much interest. Curiosity is considered improper. After breakfast, you have a few hours before your morning social visit. She curtsies and exits, taking the oil lamp with her. The room is left in darkness, save for the faint glow of the smouldering fire in the hearth. You lie in bed, reflecting on the day. So many rules, so much restraint. It's tiring, but there's also a strange comfort in always knowing exactly what's expected of you. As you begin to drift off, you wonder what tomorrow will bring in this world of strict manners and hidden emotions. A formal dinner party awaits with its own set of rules to follow, but that's a concern for the morning. For now, you let the distant city sounds carry you towards sleep. Your final thought is of Thomas Fairchild and his gentle eyes. In a world governed by control and propriety, even a small connection like that feels meaningful. You wonder when you'll see him again and what careful social choreography will be required. Outside, fog rolls in from the river, wrapping the city in damp mist. Gas lamps glow faintly through the haze, lighting the cobblestone streets. A carriage rattles past and a watchman calls out the hour. Across London, behind the tidy facades of countless homes, Victorians lie in bed, still bound by social rules, even in their dreams. Morning comes as Mary draws back your curtains. The pale winter sun barely cuts through the ever-present London fog. Another day of strict propriety begins. Good morning, Mary says, setting a cup of hot chocolate on your bedside table. It's going to be a busy day. You sip the chocolate while Mary lays out your morning dress. Today is an important day. You're attending a formal dinner at the Fairchilds' home. Yes, those Fairchilds. Thomas will be there. The morning is a whirlwind of preparation. Your mother insists you practice the piano for 2 hours instead of 1. The Fairchilds may ask you to play, she says. Mrs. Fairchild mentioned their new pianoforte. It would be impolite to refuse. Another rule to remember, never say no to a request to display your talents, but never seem too eager either. It's a fine line. After lunch, you take a light walk in the nearby park with your mother. The crisp winter air is actually cleaner than the air inside most homes, where coal fires leave a fine layer of soot in the rooms. Women walk along the paths, politely acknowledging people they know. Men tip their hats in passing. Remember, your mother says softly as you walk beside her, you'll be seated at dinner based on rank. Don't act surprised by where you're placed. You nod. The Victorian dinner table reflects the strict social order. The most important male guest sits to the hostess's right. The most important female guest sits to the host's right. Everyone else is seated in order of decreasing social status. Sitting near the end of the table clearly signals low rank. Back home, preparations for the evening are in full swing. A formal dinner means you must look your best. Mary draws a bath for you, adding a few drops of rose oil to the water. Despite a small fire in the grate, the bathroom is cold. You bathe quickly and shiver as you step out onto the chilly floor. Dressing begins. Full evening attire is required tonight. Your corset is laced tighter than usual. Your crinoline is larger. You wear a pale blue silk gown with fine lace trim. The neckline is lower than that of your daytime dress, revealing your collarbones. and a touch of shoulder, the most a respectable unmarried woman can show. Your hair is styled in an elaborate fashion with tiny silk flowers pinned among the curls. A light dusting of rice powder gives your face the desired pale look. No blush, though. Only actresses and women of questionable morals wear obvious makeup. "You look beautiful," Miss Mary says, stepping back to take in the result. You hardly recognize yourself in the mirror. You appear exactly as a proper Victorian young lady should, composed, graceful, elegant, your waist unnaturally small, your skirt absurdly wide. Fashion is uncomfortable, but it must be followed. Your father has arranged a carriage to take you to the Fairchilds. It's too cold to walk, and walking would ruin your carefully prepared appearance. Mrs. Hartley also rises, more curtsies, more polite exchanges. Then you're back on the street. The morning visit is over. "That went well," your mother says as you walk home. "Charlotte looked well, didn't she?" "Very well," you agree. In Victorian society, well is the highest compliment one can offer. Once home, you have a light lunch and spend the afternoon reading a morally uplifting book. Nothing too thrilling or romantic, of course. Novels that provoke strong feelings are seen as potentially harmful for young ladies. At 4 o'clock, your cousin Emily comes over for tea. The event follows the same pattern as the morning visit, but with a slightly more relaxed tone. "He seems rather attentive," she murmurs. "Does he?" you reply, feigning indifference. "Your mother isn't convinced." "Don't appear too eager, Jane. Nothing drives off a suitor quicker than a young lady who looks too interested." The evening carries on with more music, a few rounds of cards, and a steady flow of conversation as guests mingle throughout the room. Everyone makes a point to speak with everyone else, never lingering too long in any one conversation. Maintaining the illusion of social grace is essential. At exactly 11 o'clock, the first guests begin to take their leave, an unspoken signal that others may now do the same. Even party departures follow strict etiquette in Victorian society. Your father meets your mother's gaze, and she gives a subtle nod. Time to leave. You say your goodbyes to the hosts, offering the appropriate thanks for their hospitality. Thomas is nearby and gives you a final bow. "Until we meet again, Miss Wilson," he says gently. "Good evening, Mr. Fairchild," you respond, your tone carefully neutral despite your thoughts. Outside, your carriage awaits. As you settle into your seat, you let out a small sigh of relief. The night went smoothly, no social slip-ups, and Thomas appeared genuinely interested. "A successful evening," your father remarks as the carriage begins to roll. "Indeed," your mother agrees. "Mrs. Fairchild mentioned a small musical gathering next week. We're expecting an invitation." Your heart skips a beat. Another chance to see Thomas. Back at home, Mary helps you out of your dress, folding it neatly and returning your jewelry to its case. She removes the pins from your hair, and it cascades down your back in soft waves. "Did you have a good time, miss?" she asks. Your hands tremble slightly, though no one notices. A true Victorian lady never reveals her nerves. About 30 minutes after the ladies leave the dining room, the gentlemen join them, bringing with them the lingering scent of cigars. Some have flushed cheeks from the port. The older gentlemen settle into chairs, while the younger ones move among the ladies. Thomas approaches you, pausing to exchange polite greetings with other guests, so he doesn't seem too eager. When he finally reaches you, he says, "I enjoyed your performance, Miss Wilson." "That was Mozart, wasn't it?" "Yes," you answer, his sonata in C major. "You play with much feeling," he says, then quickly adds, but with proper restraint, of course. You give a small smile. Thank you, Mr. Fairchild. I understand you're studying classics at Oxford. And so begins a Victorian courtship, a conversation carefully focused on neutral subjects with true intentions hidden beneath the surface. You talk of books, nothing too sentimental, of music, nothing too intense, of art, nothing too daring. All the while, you are judging each other. Is he clever? Is she knowledgeable? Would our natures be compatible? You notice Mrs. Fairchild watching you both, looking pleased. Victorian mothers are the main planners of matches, and it's clear she arranged this evening to bring you and Thomas together. After what feels like only a few minutes, but is actually almost 30, Thomas excuses himself. I should go offer Miss Hartley my congratulations on her engagement, he says. Of course, you reply, hiding your disappointment. It was a pleasure speaking with you, Mr. Fairchild. He gives a small bow. The pleasure was mine, Miss Wilson. As he walks away, your mother appears at your side. Politics, religion, money, and personal matters are strictly avoided. Instead, people talk about recent theatre performances, exhibitions at the Royal Academy, the weather, and trips to acceptable destinations like Italy or France. You notice Thomas staring at you from across the table. When your eyes meet, he quickly looks away. In this world of strict social norms, even a glance can carry significant meaning. After dessert comes the most gender-segregated part of the Victorian dinner party. Mrs. Fairchild makes eye contact with the highest-ranking female guest and stands up. This signals all the women to leave the dining room, leaving the men to enjoy their port and cigars. You follow the other women to the drawing room. This separation serves several purposes in Victorian society, including giving the men space to discuss topics like business. Arriving in a carriage instead of walking shows your family's wealth. The carriage stops in front of a grand townhouse on one of the most stylish streets in London. Every window glows with light. A uniformed footman opens the carriage door and helps you out. Inside, the house is cozy and well lit. Gas lighting, a modern innovation, brightens the entrance hall. A maid takes your cloak, revealing your elegant evening clothes. As you step into the drawing room, the butler announces your family, Mr. and Mrs. Wilson and Miss Jane Wilson. Everyone looks your way. Mary asks as she gently brushes your hair. It was a pleasant evening, you reply, keeping your composure even with your maid. Servants notice everything and are quick to gossip. Any sign of excitement over Thomas might make its way to his household through the servants' chatter. When Mary leaves, you sit at your dressing table, gazing at your reflection, trying to maintain your calm appearance. Inside, your thoughts race. Did Thomas truly seek you out intentionally? What did his mother's watchful eyes signify? Will he come to call, or will you have to wait until the musical evening to see him again? Dating in Victorian times feels like playing chess blindfolded. Every move counts, but often you don't realize you're even making a move, and so much is at stake. Your future happiness rests on securing a good match. You go to the window, pull the curtain back slightly, and peer out into the foggy London night. Gas lamps cast soft halos through the mist. A solitary hansom cab rattles by on the cobblestones. Perhaps, somewhere out there, Thomas Fairchild is thinking of you too. But in this world of strict manners and concealed emotions, who can be sure? All you can do is wait for the next social occasion and learn the new rules you'll have to follow. Your next meeting with Thomas comes sooner than you thought, just the following day. You're in the front parlour, reading, idly turning the pages of a moral and educational book when Mary appears at the door. "Mr. Thomas Fairchild is here, miss," she says. "He's asking if you and your mother are receiving visitors." Your heart leaps, but outwardly you remain calm. "Please tell him we are, Mary, and let my mother know," you say. A respectable Victorian young lady would never be alone with a gentleman caller. Your mother must stay for the whole visit. Even a brief absence would cause scandal. Mary curtsies and goes. You have about half a minute to collect yourself. You glance at your reflection in the small mirror above the fireplace, adjust your posture, and pick up your book again, positioning yourself to seem naturally occupied when he enters. The door opens, and there stands Thomas, even more handsome in the daylight. His formal morning suit fits him perfectly, dark coat, neatly tied cravat, and polished boots. Your hands shake a little, but no one notices. A proper Victorian lady never reveals anxiety. About 30 minutes after the ladies left the dining room, the gentlemen joined them. The scent of cigars lingers on their clothes. A few have flushed cheeks from drinking port. The older men take seats while the younger ones move about, chatting with the ladies. Thomas makes his way over to you, pausing to exchange polite greetings along the way. Your mother mentioned that she would appreciate it if Miss Wilson could perform. Your performance of Mozart the previous night was highly praised. Now it's clear Mrs. Fairchild wants to show you off to her friends. You're being assessed as a potential daughter-in-law. You modestly offer to play, though you believe your mother has hired more skilled musicians. Thomas shakes his head, saying, "None that I'm aware of." Your talent would be the highlight of the evening. Is he actually complimenting you? That's quite bold by Victorian standards. Your mother steps in, saying, "My daughter practices diligently, Mr. Fairchild. We're grateful for the chance to share her hard work." The conversation continues with polite, formal exchanges about mutual acquaintances and upcoming social events. Thomas directs most of his comments to your mother, only occasionally looking at you. This is proper Victorian decorum. After exactly 15 minutes, the usual duration for a morning visit, Thomas stands. "I've taken enough of your time, Mrs. Wilson. Miss Wilson, I'll inform my mother of your acceptance. She'll be pleased." Your mother rings for Mary, who comes to see Thomas out. He bows to both of you, his gaze lingering on you a bit longer than necessary. Once the door closes, your mother turns to you with a satisfied look. "Well," she says, "it seems the Fairchilds have taken an interest in you." You try to look only mildly pleased. "Mrs. Fairchild is very kind to include us in her musical evening." Your mother gives you a knowing look. "It wasn't Mrs. Fairchild who just called on us, was it?" Before you can respond, the bell rings again. Mary soon appears. "Miss Charlotte Hartley and Mrs. Hartley. Mom, more visitors," she announces. The morning social visits are in full swing. Charlotte enters with her mother, both dressed in the latest fashion. Charlotte looks especially lovely. Her engagement clearly suits her. After the usual greetings, Charlotte leans forward, eyes shining with excitement. "Have you heard about Mrs. Pembroke?" she asks quietly. Your mother arches a brow. "What about her?" Mrs. Hartley clicks her tongue. "It's quite shocking. She was seen riding in the park with Mr. Foster, alone in his carriage. This is truly scandalous. Mrs. Pembroke is married, while Mr. Foster is an unmarried man known for his flirting. Being alone together in a carriage is as good as declaring an affair in public." "Perhaps there was a footman with them," your mother suggests. always hoping for the best. But Mrs. Hartley shakes her head. Completely alone. My cousin's wife saw it herself. In Victorian London, this is how a woman's reputation can be ruined. One careless carriage ride, some gossip, and she could be shunned. Men, on the other hand, face far fewer consequences. Before you can reply, the bell rings again. Mary soon comes in. Miss Charlotte Hartley and Mrs. Hartley. Mother, more visitors, she says. The morning visiting routine is in full flow. Charlotte enters with her mother, both dressed in the latest style. Charlotte looks glowing. Her engagement clearly suits her. After the usual greetings, Charlotte leans forward slightly, her eyes shining with excitement. Have you heard about Mrs. Pembroke? She asks quietly. Your mother lifts an eyebrow. What about her? Mrs. Hartley clicks her tongue. It's quite shocking. She was seen in the park, riding alone in Mr. Foster's carriage. This is truly scandalous. Mrs. Pembroke is married, and Mr. Foster is a single man known for his flirting. Being alone together in a carriage is almost like declaring an affair openly. Maybe there was a footman with them, your mother suggests, always wanting to see the good in people. But Mrs. Hartley shakes her head. Completely alone. My cousin's wife saw them herself. This is how a woman's reputation is ruined in Victorian London. A single careless carriage ride, a few whispers, and she could become a social outcast. Men, however, have much more freedom. Before you can answer, the bell rings again. Mary appears shortly after. Miss Charlotte Hartley and Mrs. Hartley. Mother, more visitors, she announces. The morning visiting routine is well underway. Charlotte comes in with her mother, both dressed in the finest fashion. Charlotte looks radiant. Engagement clearly suits her. After the usual greetings, Charlotte leans in slightly, her eyes bright with excitement. Have you heard about Mrs. Pembroke? She asks softly. Your mother raises an eyebrow. What about her? Mrs. Hartley clicks her tongue. It's quite shocking. She was seen riding alone in the park with Mr. Foster in his carriage. This is truly scandalous. Mrs. Pembroke is married while Mr. Foster is an unmarried man known for his flirting. Being alone together in a carriage is almost like declaring an affair in public. Perhaps there was a footman with them, your mother suggests, trying to think the best of people. But Mrs. Hartley shakes her head. Completely alone. My cousin's wife saw it herself. In Victorian London, this is how a woman's reputation can be ruined. One careless carriage ride, a bit of gossip, and she could be shunned. Men, of course, face far fewer consequences. Before you can reply, the bell rings again. Mary appears shortly after. Miss Charlotte Hartley and Mrs. Hartley. Mother, more visitors, she says. The morning visiting round is in full swing. Charlotte enters with her mother, both dressed in the latest style. Charlotte looks glowing. Engagement clearly suits her. After the usual greetings, Charlotte leans forward slightly, her eyes shining with excitement. Have you heard about Mrs. Pembroke? She asks softly. Your mother raises an eyebrow. What about her? Mrs. Hartley clicks her tongue. It's quite shocking. She was seen riding in the park with Mr. Foster, alone in his carriage. This is truly scandalous. Mrs. Pembroke is married, while Mr. Foster is an unmarried man known for his flirting. Being alone together in a carriage is as good as declaring an affair in public. Perhaps there was a footman with them, your mother suggests, always hoping for the best. But Mrs. Hartley shakes her head. Completely alone, my cousin's wife saw it herself. In Victorian London, this is how a woman's reputation can be ruined. One careless carriage ride, some gossip, and she could be shunned. Men, on the other hand, face far fewer consequences. Before you can reply, the bell rings again. Mary soon comes in, Miss Charlotte Hartley and Mrs. Hartley. "Mother, more visitors," she says. The morning visiting routine is in full flow. Charlotte enters with her mother, both dressed in the latest style. Charlotte looks glowing. Her engagement clearly suits her. After the usual greeting, Charlotte leans forward slightly, her eyes shining with excitement. "Have you heard about Mrs. Pembroke?" she asks quietly. Your mother lifts an eyebrow. "What about her?" Mrs. Hartley clicks her tongue. "It's quite shocking. She was seen in the park, riding alone in Mr. Foster's carriage." This is truly scandalous. Mrs. Pembroke is married, and Mr. Foster is a single man known for his flirting. Being alone together in a carriage is almost like declaring an affair openly. "Maybe there was a footman with them," your mother suggests, always wanting to see the good in people. But Mrs. Hartley shakes her head. "Completely alone. My cousin's wife saw them herself." This is how a woman's reputation is ruined in Victorian London. A single careless carriage ride, a few whispers, and she could become a social outcast. Men, however, have much more freedom. Before you can answer, the bell rings again. Mary appears shortly after. "Miss Charlotte Hartley and Mrs. Hartley. Mother, more visitors," she announces. The morning visiting routine is well underway. Charlotte comes in with her mother, both dressed in the finest fashion. Charlotte looks radiant. Engagement clearly suits her. After the usual greetings, Charlotte leans in slightly, her eyes bright with excitement. "Have you heard about Mrs. Pembroke?" she asks softly. Your mother raises an eyebrow. "What about her?" Mrs. Hartley clicks her tongue. "It's quite shocking. She was seen riding alone in the park with Mr. Foster in his carriage." This is truly scandalous. Mrs. Pembroke is married, while Mr. Foster is an unmarried man known for his flirting. Being alone together in a carriage is almost like declaring an affair in public. "Perhaps there was a footman with them," your mother suggests, trying to think the best of people. But Mrs. Hartley shakes her head. "Completely alone. My cousin's wife saw it herself." In Victorian London, this is how a woman's reputation can be ruined. One careless carriage ride, a bit of gossip, and she could be shunned. Men, of course, face far fewer consequences. Before you can reply, the bell rings again. Mary appears shortly after. "Miss Charlotte Hartley and Mrs. Hartley. Mother, more visitors," she says. The morning visiting round is in full swing. Charlotte enters with her mother, both dressed in the latest style. Charlotte looks glowing. Engagement clearly suits her. After the usual greetings, Charlotte leans forward slightly, her eyes shining with excitement. "Have you heard about Mrs. Pembroke?" she asks softly. Your mother raises an eyebrow. "What about her?" Mrs. Hartley clicks her tongue. "It's quite shocking. She was seen riding in the park alone with Mr. Foster in his carriage. This is truly scandalous. Mrs. Pembroke is married, and Mr. Foster is a single man known for being flirtatious. Being alone together in a carriage is almost like declaring an affair publicly. Perhaps there was a footman with them, your mother suggests, always hoping for the best. But Mrs. Hartley shakes her head. "Completely alone. My cousin's wife saw it herself." This is how a woman's reputation can be destroyed in Victorian London. One careless carriage ride, a bit of gossip, and she could become a social outcast. Men, of course, are given much more freedom. Before you can respond, the bell rings again. Mary comes in moments later. Miss Charlotte Hartley and Mrs. Hartley. Mother, more visitors, she announces. The morning visiting routine is in full swing. Charlotte enters with her mother, both dressed in the latest fashion. Charlotte looks radiant. Her engagement clearly suits her. After the usual greetings, Charlotte leans forward slightly, her eyes shining with excitement. Have you heard about Mrs. Pembroke? Mr. Foster, may face some disapproval at his club, but nothing beyond that. The double standard is very much present in 1850. The conversation shifts to Charlotte's wedding plans, which are coming along well. She is set to marry in 3 months, and her trousseau is being prepared. The wedding breakfast will be at the Hartleys' house after the church ceremony. Watching Charlotte's genuine happiness brings a feeling that's not quite jealousy, but more like anticipation. Will you soon be planning your own wedding to Thomas Fairchild? Or are you reading too much into a simple social visit? After the Hartleys leave, you have just over an hour before your next engagement, a charity committee meeting at the vicarage. Victorian women of good standing are expected to do charitable work, helping the poor and sick. It's considered a fitting outlet for a woman's energy and compassion. The meeting is long and tiresome, but necessary. You and a dozen other women from respectable families discuss providing winter blankets, soup kitchens and clothing donations. The vicar's wife takes notes and assigns tasks. You volunteer to collect used clothing from several households, a respectable task that will give you a reason to make morning visits. After the meeting, you walk home with 2 other young women who live nearby. The conversation inevitably turns to engagements and potential matches. Did you hear that Thomas Fairchild is back from Oxford? One of them, Emma Parker, asks in a tone that's a little too casual. Yes, I believe I heard that, you reply, keeping your voice neutral despite the tightness in your chest. Emma has always been interested in Thomas. My mother says Mrs. Fairchild is hosting a musical evening next week, Emma continues. We've been invited. Will you be going? Yes, we received an invitation as well, you answer, not mentioning that Thomas personally delivered it. Emma's smile tightens slightly. How lovely. Perhaps you'll play for us. You're so good at the piano. Mrs. Fairchild did indeed request a performance, as you acknowledge. Emma's other friend, Sarah, also joins in. Thomas has always appreciated music. You recall him turning pages for the pianist at the Johnsons' ball last season. The meaning is clear. Both of these young women see Thomas Fairchild as a potential match. The competition for eligible bachelors in Victorian London is intense, especially for someone as handsome and well-positioned as Thomas. By the time you arrive home, you are exhausted from maintaining your composed exterior. The constant awareness of Victorian social rules is draining. Every word, every glance, every gesture must be carefully controlled. You have just enough time to change for dinner, another dress, a different hairstyle, before joining your family at the table. Tonight, it's just the 4 of you, your parents, your brother James, and yourself. James is in high spirits. He has been at your mother gives James a warning glance, telling him without words not to tease you. Still, you can tell she's pleased. A connection to the Fairchild family would be beneficial. Thomas is the eldest son and set to inherit his father's banking business and large fortune. He also seems genuinely kind, which isn't something every Victorian bride can expect. After dinner, you move to the drawing room while James and your father stay in the study with their port and cigars. The evening passes quietly with needlework and gentle conversation with your mother. As she threads her needle, she remarks that if Thomas Fairchild keeps showing interest, you should think about your wardrobe. That blue silk gown is lovely, but you'll need a new one for the musical evening. This is her way of saying she approves of Thomas as a suitor. New dresses are costly, so they aren't ordered without good reason. You suggest trying to sound only slightly eager, that perhaps the dressmaker could come tomorrow. Your mother agrees, saying she'll send a note in the morning. The next few days go by in a flurry of preparations for the musical evening. The dressmaker creates a pale green silk gown that suits your eyes. You spend hours practicing the piano, choosing a piece that's beautiful without being too flashy, Mendelssohn's Songs Without Words. On the morning of the event, an unexpected package arrives. Mary brings it to your room, a small box wrapped in brown paper. She tells you it was delivered by the Fairchild's footman. Your hands tremble a little as you open it. Inside is a small book of poetry, Tennyson's latest. A small card comes with it, written in a strong, masculine hand. "Miss Wilson, I thought you might enjoy these verses. The one on page 43 reminded me of your playing. Respectfully, T. Fairchild." You quickly flip to page 43 and find a poem about music with one line softly underlined. The heart of the listener is moved by the skilled hands of the player. Mary watches your reaction, obviously curious. You say lightly, as if receiving books from gentlemen is an everyday thing, that it's just a book of poetry. Mr. Fairchild has sent you a gift. Miss Mary notices and gives you a knowing look, as servants always understand what's happening before anyone else. You hide the book in your drawer, as Victorian propriety forbids displaying or discussing such gifts publicly between unmarried men and women unless they are engaged. Thomas has bent these rules by sending it to you. If you acknowledge it openly, you'd be breaking those rules, but in the privacy of your room, you press the book to your chest for a moment, allowing yourself to feel the excitement that proper Victorian ladies would never show. Thomas Fairchild is clearly courting you. That evening, your family arrives at the Fairchild home on time, neither early nor late. Your new green silk gown rustles softly as you step out of the carriage, its crinoline underneath holding the perfect bell shape. The drawing room at the Fairchilds is already filled with guests. When you arrive, you immediately look for Thomas and find him across the room talking to an elderly gentleman. He looks up as you enter, and though he maintains a reserved expression, his eyes light up noticeably. Mrs. Fairchild greets you warmly, compliments your gown, and thanks you for agreeing to perform. She leads you to a group of young ladies, including Emma Parker. Unfortunately, Emma's dress is almost the same colour as yours, though not as fine. She notices right away and gives you a tight smile. "What a coincidence, Miss Wilson," she says. "It seems we had the same idea regarding colour." What she really means is that both of you are trying to attract Thomas's attention with green dresses. The competition continues. The musical portion of the evening begins with an Italian aria sung by a professional. A gentleman then plays the violin. You are scheduled to perform third, which is a good position, not too early to seem unimportant, and not too late to feel pressured. As you move toward the piano, Thomas steps forward. "May I turn pages for you, Miss Wilson?" he asks. This is a significant gesture, as turning pages places him beside you at the piano, a rare position of intimacy for unmarried people. It's a public setting, so everyone will pay attention to you. "Thank you, Mr. Fairchild," you say, keeping your voice calm despite your racing heart. "That would be most helpful." You sit at the piano, adjusting your large skirts as best as you can. Thomas stands next to you, close enough that you can smell his sandalwood and citrusy cologne. You place your sheet music on the stand, even though you've already memorized the piece. The music gives Thomas a reason to stay close. Taking a deep breath, you start playing. The Mendelssohn piece is beautiful and romantic without being too forward, perfect for a proper Victorian performance. You're acutely aware of Thomas beside you, turning the pages right when needed. When his hand accidentally brushes yours, you feel the contact like an electric shock, though you don't let it affect your playing. When you finish, the applause is generous. Thomas offers his hand to help you rise from the bench, a gesture that doesn't go unnoticed by the crowd. "Beautifully played," he murmurs as you sit back down. "Thank you for your help," you reply softly. Mrs. Fairchild is smiling proudly. Mr. Fairchild gives Thomas an approving nod, while Emma Parker looks displeased. The subtle dance of courtship continues, step by step. After the performances, refreshments are served. Thomas discreetly brings you a cup of punch, making sure not to make it too obvious that he's focusing on you. He doesn't stay to talk, as that would draw too much attention, but the gesture is clear in a society where every action has meaning. As the evening wears on, you notice Thomas's father engaged in a serious conversation with your own by the fireplace. Your mother quietly joins you and follows your gaze. "Your father is quite impressed with the Fairchild's banking ventures," she says. "He's considering an investment." But there's something in her voice that hints at more than just financial interest. The Victorians value efficiency. If two families are considering a marriage, why not also strengthen their business relationships? As the evening winds down, guests begin to leave, thanking the hosts for the delightful musical performance. Your family gathers their cloaks and gloves in preparation to depart. While waiting for the carriage, Thomas approaches you. "Miss Wilson," he says politely, "may I call on you tomorrow afternoon? There's an exhibition at the Royal Academy that I thought you might enjoy. With your parents' permission, of course," he adds quickly, glancing at your father. This is it. His direct request to court you. It's not quite a proposal, but it clearly shows his intentions. In Victorian terms, Thomas is asking for permission to pursue you formally. Your father looks pleased, but keeps his composure. "We would be honoured to receive you, Mr. Fairchild, around 2 o'clock, perhaps," he suggests. 2 o'clock would be perfect, sir," Thomas responds, clearly relieved. He then turns to you. In the distance, the clock strikes midnight, signalling the end of another day spent navigating the rigid social expectations of Victorian society. Tomorrow holds the promise of new challenges and possibilities, particularly with Thomas Fairchild. The next day begins bright and clear, a rare occurrence in London's usual foggy winters. Perhaps even the weather is in favour of your growing connection with Thomas. You wake up earlier than usual, too excited to sleep, despite knowing that a proper Victorian lady is not supposed to appear eager. Mary assists you in dressing for the day's art exhibition, helping you into a deep burgundy wool dress with a matching pelisse and bonnet. The outfit is stylish, yet understated, appropriate for a young woman of good family who is being courted by a respectable gentleman. Mary comments that you look lovely, and you thank her as you examine your reflection. The burgundy hue complements your complexion, and you hope Thomas will approve. Downstairs, you find your mother already waiting in the drawing room, dressed for her role as chaperone. In Victorian courtship, a young lady is never alone with her suitor until after marriage, should the relationship reach that point. Remember, your mother says as you wait for Thomas's arrival, enthusiasm is not becoming in a young lady. Mr. Fairchild should feel that he is earning your affection, not that it is being freely given. You nod, though privately you think the courtship rules are exhausting. So much pretending, so much hiding of your true feelings. But these rules must be followed to maintain your reputation and secure a good match. At exactly 2 o'clock the doorbell rings. Thomas is punctual, which is another point in his favour. The butler escorts him into the drawing room where he bows to both you and your mother. "Mrs. Wilson, Miss Wilson," he says, "I trust you are both well today." "Quite well, thank you, Mr. Fairchild," your mother replies. "It's a fine day for an exhibition." "Indeed," Thomas agrees. "The carriage is ready whenever you are." Thomas has brought his family's carriage, a fine vehicle with the Fairchild family crest, clearly showing his family's wealth and his serious intentions towards you. In Victorian society, every little detail carries meaning. The three of you settle into the carriage, with you and your mother sitting on one seat, and Thomas across from you. As the carriage starts moving, you catch Thomas glancing at you, his admiration evident in his eyes, despite his composed demeanour. "That colour looks wonderful on you, Miss Wilson," he says, quickly adding, "As Mrs. Wilson's daughter, you've obviously inherited her excellent taste." His compliment is partly directed at your mother to avoid being too forward. Thomas knows the rules of proper behaviour. "You're too kind, Mr. Fairchild," you reply, modestly lowering your gaze. The carriage makes its way through the busy streets of London toward the Royal Academy. Along the way, Thomas points out interesting sights, mostly speaking to your mother, though occasionally casting glances at you. Everything is perfectly proper. At the exhibition, Thomas buys your tickets, another sign of his intentions. You move through the galleries, admiring landscapes, portraits, and historical paintings. The exhibition is crowded with fashionable people, many of whom you recognize from social events. "Miss Wilson, Mrs. Wilson," a familiar voice calls out. You turn to see Emma Parker approaching with her mother. Of course, Emma wouldn't miss a chance to insert herself into your time with Thomas. "Miss Parker," Thomas says, bowing politely. "Mrs. Parker, what a pleasant surprise." Emma stands next to Thomas, commenting on a nearby painting. "Don't you think the artist captured the light wonderfully, Mr. Fairchild? It reminds me of the view from my aunt's estate in the Lake District. You must come visit sometime. The landscapes are breathtaking." This is a bold move, essentially inviting Thomas to visit her family's estate. You maintain a composed expression, though internally you roll your eyes at her obviousness. Thomas handles the situation with perfect Victorian diplomacy. "I'm sure the Lake District is lovely, Miss Parker. However, I'm currently occupied with business in London." He smoothly guides you and your mother away from Emma and toward another gallery, leaving Emma slightly disappointed. Another win for Thomas's social grace. As you move through the exhibition, you encounter others from your social circle. Each interaction follows the same pattern: formal greetings, polite conversation, and curious glances exchanged between you and Thomas. It's clear to everyone that Thomas is publicly showing his interest in you by escorting you to the exhibition. By the next day, it will be common knowledge within your social group. After an hour of art viewing and social exchanges, Thomas suggests refreshments. The Academy has a small tea room where visitors can rest and chat. He finds a table for the three of you and orders tea and small cakes. "I hope you're enjoying the exhibition, Miss Wilson," Thomas says as you wait for your tea. "Very much, Mr. Fairchild," you reply. The new works by Mr. Turner are particularly impressive. "I thought you might appreciate them," he says, a hint of genuine pleasure breaking through his proper demeanor. "Your brother mentioned you enjoy painting yourself." "Only as an amateur," you reply modestly. "While Victorian ladies may engage in artistic hobbies, they would never do so professionally." "I'd be interested in seeing your work sometime," Thomas says, then glances at your mother. "With your permission, of course, Mrs. Wilson." Your mother nods approvingly. "Jane has several watercolors in our drawing room. Perhaps you could view them on your next visit." This is significant. Your mother is clearly inviting Thomas to call again. The courtship is progressing well. The tea arrives, momentarily halting the conversation. As you sip your cup, you notice a man nearby watching your group closely. He's middle-aged, well-dressed, with a calculating expression that makes you uneasy. Thomas notices your slight frown. "Is everything all right, Miss Wilson?" he asks. You lower your voice. "That man seems to be watching us very intently." Thomas casually looks over and his face darkens a little. "Ah, Lord Barrington. Don't worry about it, Miss Wilson." Your mother, however, has also noticed him. "Lord Barrington," she says softly. "I didn't realize he had returned to London." There's something in her tone that sparks your curiosity. "Do you know him, Mother?" you ask. She and Thomas exchange a look that hints they know more than they're saying. "Lord Barrington has quite the reputation," your mother says delicately. "Particularly with young ladies." Thomas clears his throat. "Perhaps we should move on with our tour. The next gallery has a wonderful collection of miniatures." As you stand to leave, Lord Barrington rises and approaches your table. Thomas immediately steps in front of you, subtly protective. "Fairchild, Mrs. Wilson, and this must be the lovely Miss Wilson I've heard so much about," Lord Barrington says with a slight bow. His gaze lingers on you in a way that makes you uncomfortable. It's not the respectful look of a gentleman, but something more predatory. Thomas's tone remains polite, though colder. "Lord Barrington, I didn't realize you were back in London." "Just returned from the continent," Lord Barrington replies, his eyes still fixed on you. "Paris has its appeal, but London's young ladies are incomparable. Perhaps Miss Wilson might honor me with an introduction." This puts your mother in a difficult spot. Social etiquette dictates that introductions should be made when requested, but Lord Barrington's reputation makes him an unsuitable acquaintance for an unmarried young lady. Your mother handles the situation with perfect grace, politely turning down Lord Barrington's invitation with the promise of another time. While his smile remains, there's an unmistakable tension. He can't push the matter without seeming rude. As you leave the tea room, Thomas steps between you and Lord Barrington, his stance protective but respectful. Once you're in a safer space, he quietly speaks to your mother, apologizing for the encounter. He mentions that had he known Lord Barrington would be there, he would have chosen a different outing. Your mother assures him there was no need for apology and expresses gratitude for his quick thinking. Though you're curious about Lord Barrington and his questionable reputation, you understand that as a proper Victorian lady, you cannot ask direct questions about such matters. You'll have to wait until you're alone with your mother to discuss it further. The rest of the exhibition goes smoothly, but you notice Thomas is more attentive than usual, staying close by your side. It's comforting to feel protected, even if the threat is merely social rather than physical. As you leave, Thomas escorts you and your mother back to the carriage. He asks if the awkward encounter with Lord Barrington ruined your enjoyment of the exhibition. You assure him it didn't, mentioning that the art was too impressive to be overshadowed by a brief social discomfort. He seems relieved, but then hesitates before saying, "I should mention that Lord Barrington is not welcomed in many of London's best homes due to his behaviour toward young women. His actions have not been honourable." This is the closest Thomas comes to warning you about a potential threat, though the details are left vague to shield your sensibilities. The message is clear: avoid Lord Barrington. The carriage then takes you home, and Thomas assists both you and your mother as you exit onto the pavement. At the door, he bows formally. "Thank you for a delightful afternoon, Mrs. Wilson," he says. "Miss Wilson, may I call again tomorrow?" "I'd like to speak with Mr. Wilson if he's available." Your heart skips a beat. A conversation with your father could only mean one thing in the context of Victorian courtship. Thomas likely wants permission to court you, the step before a formal engagement. Your mother remains composed, responding, "I believe my husband will be home tomorrow afternoon around 3 o'clock. That would be convenient." "3 o'clock it is," Thomas replies, his eyes meeting yours for a moment, revealing genuine emotion before he quickly regains his composure. "Until tomorrow, Miss Wilson." "Until tomorrow, Mr. Fairchild," you respond, keeping your voice steady despite your excitement. Inside, once the door is closed, your mother allows herself a small smile of triumph. "I believe Mr. Fairchild intends to speak with your father about his intentions toward you tomorrow." You nod, unable to speak without betraying too much excitement. "If your father approves," your mother continues, "you can expect a formal proposal soon. We should begin discussing your trousseau." A trousseau is a collection of clothing, linens, and personal items a bride brings to her marriage, a sign that your mother considers your engagement nearly certain. "Yes, mother," you say, trying to remain composed. Just then, your brother James enters, bringing a rush of cold air and masculine energy. "Jane," he exclaims, noticing your flushed cheeks, "you look like you've received good news." He treats you with respect and shows genuine interest in your thoughts and interests. By Victorian standards, he's almost perfect. But what about love? Victorians are wary of passionate love as the foundation for marriage. Compatibility, mutual respect, similar backgrounds and values are considered far more important for a successful union. Romantic love, if it develops, should come after marriage, not before. Still, you can't help but hope that what you feel for Thomas, the flutter in your chest when he enters the room, the warmth that spreads through you when he looks at you, might be the beginning of something deeper than mere compatibility. Outside your window, the gas lamps cast a yellow light on the quiet street. A dog barks in the distance. Somewhere a carriage rolls over cobblestones. And across London, at his family's townhouse, Thomas Fairchild might be lying awake too, thinking about tomorrow and the question he plans to ask your father. Morning arrives too quickly, and not quickly enough. You dress with extra care in a pale blue morning dress, a colour Thomas once said he admired. Mary arranges your hair in a way that softens your features while still maintaining a proper, restrained look. Your father is working from home this morning, an unusual occurrence. He seems rather attentive, she murmurs. Does he? You reply, pretending not to have noticed. Your mother isn't deceived. Don't look too interested, Jane. Nothing frightens off a potential suitor more quickly than a girl who seems too eager. The evening carries on with more music, some card games, and guests continuously moving around the room. Everyone makes a point to speak with everyone else. No one lingers in a single conversation for too long. Maintaining the appearance of social grace is essential. At exactly 11 o'clock, first guests begin to leave, indicating it's now acceptable for others to do the same. The Victorians even have rules for when a party should end. Your father catches your mother's eye, and she gives a small nod. It's time to leave. My mother also said she'd be thankful if Miss Wilson might perform. Your performance of Mozart last night was very well received. Now it's clear Mrs. Fairchild wants to show you off to her friends. She's sizing you up as a possible daughter-in-law. You reply humbly that you'd be happy to play, though you're sure his mother has hired more skilled musicians. Thomas shakes his head. None that he knows of. Your talent would be the highlight of the evening. Is he actually giving you a direct compliment? That's nearly scandalous by Victorian standards. Your mother steps in gracefully. My daughter practices with great dedication, Mr. Fairchild. We appreciate the chance to share the results. Mr. Foster might get a few disapproving looks at his club, but nothing more serious. The double standard is still very much present in 1850. The conversation shifts to Charlotte's upcoming wedding, which is coming along well. She's getting married in 3 months, and her trousseau is being put together. The wedding breakfast will be held at the Hartleys' house after the church ceremony. Seeing Charlotte's sincere happiness, you feel a slight stir, not quite jealousy, but a sense of anticipation. Could you soon be planning a wedding with Thomas Fairchild? Or are you reading too much into a simple visit? After the Hartleys leave, you have barely an hour before your next engagement, a charity committee meeting at the vicarage. Victorian women of means are expe. These past few weeks have only made me admire and care for you more deeply. He hesitates, trying to summon his courage. In this instant, he's no longer the polished Victorian gentleman, but just a man speaking from the heart. What I'm trying to say, though not very eloquently, is that I think the world of you. Jane Wilson, would you do me the incredible honor of becoming my wife? Thomas's words linger in the silence between you. This is the moment you've been waiting for. The ring isn't as flashy as some modern ones, but it's elegant and clearly expensive. You tell him it's lovely as he slips it onto your finger. Its weight feels unfamiliar, but not unpleasant. This visible sign of your engagement will announce your new role to society even before you say a word. The moment is broken by the sound of footsteps. Your parents, having allowed you as much privacy as Victorian standards permit, return to the drawing room. Thomas immediately steps back to a proper distance, though he keeps his eyes on you. Well, your father says, looking between the two of you. Miss Wilson has done me the great honor of accepting my proposal, sir, Thomas replies formally. Your mother's face lights up with real joy. How wonderful! We must have champagne to celebrate. The butler is called, champagne is served, and toasts are made to the happy couple. Throughout it all, you feel dazed. The rapid pace of Victorian courtship is overwhelming. Your cousin Emily seems to like my cousin William, Thomas says quietly, while others are distracted. Maybe another match is forming. You look over and see Emily laughing at something William said. You think you might be right. They do seem well suited. Though not as well as we are, Thomas adds softly. His simple words make you blush. Even after weeks of being engaged, his focused attention still makes you nervous. Women belong in the private sphere of home and family. As a wife, your duty is to create a calm and welcoming home for your husband and to manage the household well. I'm sure you and Thomas will be very happy, your mother finishes, patting your hand. He seems like a good man, and he clearly loves you. Thank you, Mother, you reply, touched by her concern for your happiness, even though her advice feels a bit limited. I believe we'll be happy too. That night, you sleep little, your mind filled with thoughts of tomorrow and everything it will bring. The end of your life as Miss Jane Wilson, and the beginning of your life as Mrs. Thomas Fairchild. Your wedding day arrives clear and bright. The ceremony is set for 11 o'clock at St. George's Church, Hanover Square, an elegant venue favoured for society weddings. You get dressed with great care. First, the finest undergarments from your trousseau, followed by the stunning white gown with its fitted bodice and full skirt. Your delicate veil is arranged over your carefully styled hair. You look beautiful, miss, Mary says, eyes brimming with tears. Forgive me, but you truly do. Thank you, Mary, you reply, genuinely touched. Mary has been by your side for years, helping you through the intricate expectations of Victorian womanhood. I'll miss you. You'll have your own lady's maid. These past few weeks have only made my admiration and affection for you grow stronger. He pauses as if trying to summon his courage. In this moment, he's no longer the flawless Victorian gentleman, but simply a man revealing his true feelings. What I'm trying to say, though perhaps not very eloquently, is that I think very highly of you. Jane Wilson, would you do me the great honour of becoming my wife? Thomas's words linger in the space between you. This is the moment you've been waiting for. And yet, now that it has arrived, you find yourself truly overwhelmed.